Technology seems to be a part of everyone's lives these days.
And while it's made its way into the classroom,
Teenagers' cars
now distracted. It's expected to continue for at least another 3 days. Stay warm if you can, and
Hello, this is Dr. Ned Hallowell. Thanks so much for joining me on my podcast called Distraction. Well, we're going to look at the cell phone. My cell phone, which never used to be with me for most of my life, is now literally always with me. It is, I pick it up when I get out of bed in the morning, and I put it next to my bedside table when I fall asleep at night, and it is with me always. Now, I'm glad it's with me always. I like to think I'm in charge of it. It's not in charge of me. But what did I do before I had the cell phone? How did I manage? In fact, I did just fine. So as much as I love it, I have to remind myself that I could live without it. In 2017, the average time per day spent on a mobile device is 3 hours and 15 minutes. Can you believe that? The average time per day spent on a mobile device is 3 hours and 15 minutes. Gee, I mean, you're not awake for a whole lot more than, say 14, 15 hours. 75% of U.S. adults will use a smartphone this year. Those stats are staggering, because when people say they have more to do than time to do it, the first thing I ask is how much time do you spend what I call screen sucking? How much time do you spend glomped onto a screen, supposedly doing something constructive, but in fact wasting time sending and receiving meaningless emails, surfing the net, shopping, the ubiquitous Amazon headed by the world's richest man and heading to be richer and richer. And don't get me wrong, I love Amazon. My front porch most every day has a UPS box from Amazon. So I'm not a Luddite, but I am saying if you're spending 3 hours and 15 minutes a day on a screen, you're wasting time. You're flushing down the cyber toilet, part of your life that you'll never get back. So we did an experiment. My sadistic producer, Sarah Gerton, decided to send me out without my cell phone. And my task was to simply pick up lunch at a deli that I'd never been to. So I had to find my way there. I had to order and pick up lunch for everyone, get back to the studios, all without any help from my iPhone. And, of course, my sadistic production crew recorded the whole thing. Scott, the engineer, was with me, but he was instructed not to give me any help. Of course, I seduced him into giving me a little bit of help because he's a nice guy, unlike our producer, Sarah, who is a sadistic, heartless person. And she loved watching me twist in the wind as I went out there on my own without my cell phone. How did I feel before I went out there? I felt like I was about to get naked. I felt like I was going to be exposed, be vulnerable, be without my trusty right-hand person, namely my cell phone. And, it really does. By the way, I recommend all of you do this because it's very enlightening to see how you feel in the world without your trusty companion, otherwise known as your smartphone, iPhone, whatever you want to call it. Well, let's see how it went. Here we go. All right, so off we go, Scott, into the wild blue yonder. All right. Yeah, well, don't hold your breath. I don't know, have any idea how long. This is a big order. It'd probably take them a half an hour just to make them all. So here we go, out the door, into my little car, which I call the Bumblebee. Here we go. All right, the corner deli. And I go down to the next street and take a right, assuming that it goes through. Here we go. Take a right. We could just cheat and go to Popeyes, bring back fried chicken. Where is this place? Deli. Corner Deli. We've made it here. Now I got to decide what I want. 1 buffalo chicken wrap, no lettuce or tomato. Add crumbled gorgonzola and extra blue cheese. Extra blue cheese, put it on the side. My name is Ned, N-E-D. So you need to get an iced tea for Scott. Where do they have iced tea? Iced tea. We'll be happy to serve you as soon as you are off your cell phone. Very good. That's great. This is clearly an excellent store. They're friendly. Remember we went into that place in New York and they wouldn't talk to us. Well, this is a great place. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you very much.
Well, we collected lunch. I'm getting back in my yellow Bumblebee Camaro. My daughter thinks it's ridiculous that I drive this car. She said, Dad, you're an old man driving a young man's car. Well, I feel triumphant here. We've done it. We're back. The food's here. We got a lot of food. Well, that was wonderful. I laughed reliving it. It was an adventure in life without a cell phone, and it was so ironic. At the counter there, it said, "We'd be glad to serve you once you get off your cell phone." I think everybody knows we need to set some limits on it. And would I do this again? I absolutely would. In fact, I think I'm going to make a habit of doing it more often, simply leaving home without my little support, my little sucker, if you will, that I spend so much time on. All right, well, there is another way to leave your phone at home but still be connected in case of an emergency. It's called the light phone. It's a little credit card-sized phone that only makes and receives phone calls. That's all you can do. No texting, no surfing the web. The makers of the light phone agreed to send us one so we could try it out for ourselves. So today I'm joined in the studio by Sarah Girton, our wonderful producer, and George Teneri from our marketing department here at CRN. Sarah and George both tried the light phone and are here to talk about their experiences. Maybe, Sarah, you could lead off.
Sure.
You spent the weekend with
Sure. Well, yeah. So what we were talking about is this little phone. For people that don't know what a light phone is, it's a small, size of a credit card. It's very thin, very lightweight.
I'm holding it right now. It's about as thick as 2 credit cards.
Yeah.
And it's almost identical in size to a credit card.
It probably weighs about the same.
You can fit it in a wallet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In the slot.
Yeah. Yep. And and the advantage of it, Sarah, is?
Well, you're in touch, but you're out of touch from your cell phone, I guess. So you can still be reached with this light phone. You can still make calls, but you can't do texting. There's no internet connection. It's just your basic old-fashioned phone in a sense.
Yeah.
But
so
you can travel.
All it is a telephone.
That's all it is. What a concept.
Imagine how what a rinky-dink thing, right? So you envisioned this as a sort of a deprivation experiment, right?
Well, when we had Joel Hollier, the founder of the Light Phone, on the show last year, he was like, you should take it, use it if you're going out in nature or something like that. You still want to, in case something happens, you want to be able to reach someone or be reachable, but you don't want to be dragged down by the internet or your phone dinging with text messages and things like that. Yeah. So when George got us this light phone, I thought it would be a really great experiment to just try it. Go out, take it out, and see how it works.
And what was it like for you?
Well, we both, George and I have.
You did it this weekend too, George?
I did it the previous weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you've
Yes.
both had an experience
Yeah.
with the light phone on the weekend.
Yeah.
So with none of the bells and whistles of an iPhone.
None.
You were stuck with this little credit card that does what would have been a miracle 50 years ago. You know?
Yeah, very true.
And now it's like, that's all it does?
That's all it does. Right.
Boring.
So, and what was it like for both of you?
Well, we're different age groups, I'd say. I'm a little bit older than George.
George, you look like you're about 20. How old are you?
22.
22.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're
we're definitely different. 42.
42. Very
Yeah.
good. Okay. And
So
I'm
definitely.
I'm 67. So we have 3 generations.
Yeah.
here.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
but you're supposed to say I don't look 67, right, George?
Absolutely not.
Good answer. Good answer. So I took the phone. I guess I'll start. I took the phone out this weekend, and it's the kind of thing that you can turn it off and on. You can use it when you want to use it. You can forward your calls to it and leave your cell phone at home. And when you want to use your cell phone, you can, your main cell phone, you can. So this weekend, I thought I'd use it. I was out with my family, and I figured that would be great because I have a husband and a son, and they were both with me. So they're the people that would most likely to be in touch with me. So I felt a little safe, I guess, using it. So I had it with me, and it was a little bit different. I didn't expect to have any issues with it, but there were a couple of occasions where I felt myself kind of longing for my cell phone. And just simple things. We were out to eat at a diner, and my son had a soccer game, and we looked out the window, and there's all these clouds, and I'm like, is it going to rain? Is it going to rain during the soccer game? And, well, I'm not using my cell phone. I just have the light phone. So, well, hopefully it won't. What can we do? And then another thing related to the soccer, when we got to the soccer game, when we got to the field, there's multiple fields. Normally, I open up my phone, I check my email, I see which field number we're at. And that's how we figure out what field we go to. And so we're on our way there. We're almost there. And my guys are like, so, okay, Mom, what field we going to? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. We're just going to have to look for the green shirts, and that's what we did. So I guess I just wasn't expecting oh, yeah, I have to plan in advance. We're so used to just having the phone. As my husband called it, he's like, well, it's like your external hard drive. I don't have to store anything in here. I can just go to it. And, so I'm very used to, which I didn't realize, which makes total sense, but used to just going to it and not having to think or rely on me as much.
So how do you look at that? Was it an experiment you'd like to repeat?
It made me a little bit uneasy, and I was a little surprised by that because George and I were speaking a little bit before we all got together here. And I know the phone works, but I had doubts is it going to work? What if somebody needs to reach me? What if I need to reach somebody?
See, what I take from your experience is maybe not what you intended. I think it's a demonstration of how great cell phones are. And all we hear about these days are, the cell phone, we all hate cell phones, we're too attached to cell phones. But what we don't talk about is what an incredible tool they are for good.
Yeah.
And the things you mentioned, is it going to rain? Well, you got your weather app and which field to go to. Instead of schlepping all over God's creation, finding the right field, you just go to the website of the league and I think we don't give these little devices enough credit for what they do. That's positive, and you just demonstrated, how
you're right.
What a positive thing
You're
it
right.
is in your life.
I think for me, it helped for me to be aware of what was happening rather than just being like a robot and pulling out my phone. It made me stop and think about my habits.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally
Sarah, you'd
agree
have to
with
go a long way before you're a robot. Believe me, you are anything but a robot. So, George, what was it? What about for you?
So I took the light phone for 2 major experiences, I would say, that I had with it. The first, I went to a bar on a Friday night with my friends, and that was awful. I really wanted my phone back because I find that my generation tends to use our iPhones, our smartphones, as tools to help remedy social awkwardness. So if you're in a bar and everybody's talking to each other and you don't have anybody to talk to or you don't have anything to say, the immediate default is to just look down at your phone and make yourself look busy. And I didn't have that with me. I just had the light phone, and I could just make and receive phone calls, and I wasn't about to start calling people. So that was really awkward and really just I missed my phone so much. And it made me realize, how much I depend on my smartphone to just get through social situations that are a little uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
However, I found it a lot easier when I went out to lunch with a really good friend of mine because there's just this closeness that I have with her, and I was able to have effortless conversations to the point that I didn't need to be looking down at my phone.
Uh-huh.
And I think that, as you always say on the podcast, that connection is completely and totally key. When there's connection, I didn't really feel the need to have a phone. I definitely did, like Sarah say, there were a few times where I wanted to show a video or something that I was thinking of in conversation, and it would have been great in that context. And in fact, I reached into my pocket a few times only to find this thick
little
credit card.
right?
Wah, wah.
Yeah. But it was really interesting. And you know what else? When I left that lunch, I knew that I was probably going to have missed text messages and maybe even phone calls. But when I got to where my phone was, I checked and I did have text messages, but none of them were urgent. They could have absolutely waited. And when I had previously had my smartphone with me, during the conversation, I would have been checking those text messages rather than engaging with the person I was with. And when I was using this phone, I couldn't do that. And you know what? It was totally fine. The earth did not end during my lunch, and I got through it, and I got to those other people later.
See, and that's the beauty of what you did. I mean, Sarah, I think, gave us a demonstration of how helpful cell phones are. You learned a demonstration of what an impediment they can be, because without it, you were allowed to connect in a much deeper way with the person you were with, and without constantly compulsively checking it.
Absolutely.
And it was like you didn't have your cigarette to suck on, so you had to connect with the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. And another an app I use very often is Snapchat, and that tends to have me take pictures out of context. When I'm just in a group of friends, taking pictures of myself, taking pictures of them, making sure that other people in my social circle know that I'm having a tremendous time. And without, my phone, I couldn't do that. But what's interesting is that I realized when I am actually having the most fun in the moment, I don't have a desire to use my phone anyway and to take Snapchats and to share what I'm doing. When I am having less fun, I realize that that's when I want to use Snapchat and take photos. That's when I want to text people. That's when I want to take videos. It's anything to just sort of escape for a little while and make sure that I'm occupied and entertained one way or another. But
it's funny. I was out playing golf with my two sons. They're 25 and 22 yesterday. And I'm riding a cart because I have these bad hips. So my son is riding the cart with me, and he suddenly bursts out laughing. And I say, Jack, what's funny? He said, this Snapchat thing I just got. And I said, what's Snapchat? He said, Dad, you don't know what Snapchat is? And then he told me it's this thing where they send videos. And he showed me this really funny video his friend had just sent him. So it can be an enhancer of the moment.
Sure.
And so rather than it didn't detract from our interaction. In fact, I learned something that I probably should have known anyway. But I think it's all in how you use them. I think that's where we tend to either disparage them or rarely do you hear people praising them, but they are wonderful tools. I mean, you specialize in social media.
Oh, yeah.
So you know how powerful they are for good, not for bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I love my phone. Don't get me wrong. I will continue to be extremely unhealthily addicted to it, I'm sure.
I don't think it's unhealthy the way you describe it.
Well, I think and being aware helps. And that's one thing that George and I talked about was we kind of have this capability on our phones already. Do you necessarily need a light phone? You could just shut off those features temporarily.
Or learn. What I'm always preaching these days is learning the skill of moderation.
Absolutely.
The analogy is with food. You cannot abstain from food. You've got to learn moderation with food.
Right.
And I think the same thing with these phones. You can't abstain from them.
Yeah.
because they enhance your life if you. But,
Well, and
but
that's on Sunday when I had the phone. My son was at a sleepover, and I had to have I didn't use the light phone because I knew that his friend's mom would be text messaging me. That's how we relate.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to call her and be like, I
only got this thick
I'm
credit
going
card.
light. Yeah, I just got the light phone, so call me. But like pick and choose when and how you use it.
Well, that's always as long as we're in charge of our devices, we're fine. When they're in charge of us, then that's a problem.
Yeah, and that's super important. I just think that like if there comes a time where I just want to spend some quality time with somebody, or even just do something simple like go on some sort of nature walk.
Yeah. TIO, turn it off.
Yeah, just turn it off. But it's in a way it's easier said than done because
bet.
Yeah, it's easy to say we're going to turn it off, but then the moment comes, and I think to myself, well, gee, what if I get an important text message, or what if I want to look something up?
Or what if I just feel that itch?
That itch, absolutely, comes to just look up a video or something, anything on the internet, and
No, it is. It's an itch. It's not as powerful as a smoker trying to have a cigarette, but it is an itch.
Mm-hmm.
There is a yen.
Well, and it's a lot more acceptable than cigarettes.
That's true. It's totally socially acceptable.
Yeah. Well, it's I just did this thing where I went out and got lunch. The people at CRN sent me out to the corner deli to get lunch and order lunch, and
without his phone,
without my phone. Mm-hmm. So I had to get there, drive there, simple directions. But I normally would have my GPS and. Didn't have my GPS, and I drove out, got to the deli, ordered lunch, and brought it back without my phone. It was fun. There was a very wonderful moment when I was placing my order. I looked down, and there was a sign next to the cash register that said, "We are happy to take your order as soon as you get off your cell phone."
Wow.
And we didn't plan it that way at all. There it was. So this place, and I said to her, we do a podcast on connection. And she said, well, that's why we have that sign. We want to connect with our customers. We don't want to be taking orders from people who aren't even connecting with us at all as they're talking on their cell phone.
Yeah. You came very prepared then.
Yes. No,
didn't even know it.
Perfect.
It was really – so I think we're catching on as a society that these are great as long as we use them properly.
Yeah.
And you're living your generation, my kids, just like you, they enhance their lives.
Oh, yeah. It absolutely does. Every single day. I don't know. I think that I would probably be a lot less – smart without my phone. It's just it's just an endless supply of knowledge.
It is.
Yeah.
Who was the 17th president of the United States? You can just Google it and
Absolutely.
find out. I mean, things that we had to go to an encyclopedia for or what have you. It's right there. Mm-hmm. Any mathematical calculation we want to do.
But I wonder, do we lose anything with that? Like, is there something to be said for thinking?
Oh, no. You can still think. Finding the 17th president of the United States is not thinking. That's just labor. Believe me, I agree with you. If you overuse these devices, your life becomes very superficial and you don't think.
Yeah.
So one of the tricks is to have time without it. So you can think it, and people avoid thinking because thinking hurts. Mm-hmm. Thinking is difficult. It's work.
Yeah.
And so we tend to want to avoid what hurts and what's work. So if you're not careful, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. You can become a very superficial person. But I hesitate to say, these things are costing us because if we use them right, they're really benefiting us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the experiment.
Sure.
Thank you. So this was your idea, Sarah, right?
Well, we had talked a little bit about it, but George had brought me the light phone. Yeah. And because we had him on the show last year, I was like, yes, let's get one. Let's try it. Let's do this. So
thank you, guys.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so what do you think? Are you going to try using your iPhone less? Or shut off some of the features from time to time? What about the light phone? What do you think of that? Is that something you think could work for you? It's important to let this whole topic become a matter that you give serious consideration to. Otherwise, you give away a lot of your time without meaning to. You risk having accidents on the road. You risk offending other people by looking at your phone when you're supposed to be looking at them. Think about it and consider – the whole point is to put you in charge of your phone so your phone isn't in charge of you. And I just learned that it's now a crime. You can get ticketed in Hawaii if you're crossing the street looking at your phone. You can be talking on it, but if you're crossing the street looking at your phone, you can now get a ticket. So more and more laws are getting made, regulations, but the important regulations are the ones you impose upon yourself. I learned a lot by going out without my phone. I learned how much it's become a part of me without my realizing it. What I hope after listening to this you all will be thinking about is how much of a role does your phone play in your life? And if it's playing more of a role than you think is good for you, take some easy steps to try to pare it down and try spending an evening, an afternoon, maybe an entire weekend without the electronic connection and see what that feels like. Well, that's our show for today. We're on to a very important issue and certainly one related to our themes of distraction and connection. My thanks to the makers of the Light Phone for allowing us to try it out. To learn more about it, go to thelightphone.com. If you have a comment on this show or any other, please send us a note. connect@distractionpodcast.com. That's connect@distractionpodcast.com. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We really count on you to make this show successful. Thanks so much for listening.
Hey, this is Sarah. We're wondering if you could take 1 minute and do us a favor. We're trying to learn more about our listeners, and we've added a survey on our website. It's really short. There are just a few multiple choice questions, and it will only take you about a minute to fill it out. So just go to distractionpodcast.com and click on the blue words in the upper right corner that say Take Listener Survey. Again, it'll just take you maybe a minute or two to fill it out, and it would really help us out. So thank you so much.
Distraction is produced by Collisions, the podcast division of CRN International. Collisions, podcasts for curious people. Today's show was produced by Sarah Gurton and recorded and mixed by Scott Person. Our original music was created by Mark Berman.